I'm okay with being friends, but I hate your fucking guts. So
Ace, come back, bro. I'm not moving to keep you here, you feel me?
Right.
I'm moving to make a connection, whoever I make a connection with. And the way you was thinking was, you want me to move for you.
Ooh. The challenge for me was quite eye-opening because it allowed people to hear the truth, people like Olandria, and then what it did, it exposed people that have been trying to play characters. Sadly, Ace, this wasn't a good look for him. The way he outed Amaya, and then when he realized that he was going to come across as the villain, he started to want to run after her. He was coupled up with Amaya for days on end. He slept in soul ties, and he never once cared about her feelings. So the fact that of all the people, he was the first one to call her out and then have everyone else pile on. And then when he realized that this wasn't a good look for all of them, when she started crying, he then wanted to be the hero, the savior. I'm happy that Sierra told him to sit down. He didn't need to go there. He did not have that sort of relationship with Amaya for him to want to go and console her. And also, I hope this is a teachable moment for Olandria. I hope it's a teachable moment because this man has embarrassed her countless times. Yes, she was bound to break. Because it's been one thing after the other. But the fact that he told her in front of everyone that I choose Clark. He's been choosing Clark from the day she came back with Nick. So for him to actually vocalize it, I hope this is enough for her because she's heard it. I hope this is enough for her to move on. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island USA, Season 7, Episode 26. Hi everyone, I'm so sorry about my late review. Life has been lifing, but here we go. Anyway, so you have Sierra go for a chat with Nick. Sierra is smitten. I am side-eyeing Nick because I don't know how much into Sierra he is, whether he's into the idea of who Sierra is or whether he really likes her as a person. It seemed he closed things off, I think, because of Elon. I don't think he closed things off because he was really that emotionally invested. I might be wrong. You have Brian pull Jade for a conversation. Austin was taken aback. He wasn't expecting it. The problem with the Brian situation is Andrina is the one who initiated that they should explore connections with other people because she wanted to explore Pepe. Pepe turned her down and now he is exploring connections, and it seems like he's established a connection with Jaden. They seemed happy. They were giddy. So hopefully it works for them because she said she likes a guy who's tall, dark and handsome, and that is who exactly he is. And then if you're Team Huda, I'm sorry. Here's my opinion. So Huda goes for a chat with Nick to the dock. Ian was mocking them. And then Huda is sort of having this conversation with Nick. I feel like she expected Nick to be on her side. She expected Nick to sort of side with her and bash Shirley and say Shirley was, was just overreacting or whatever. And so for Nick to tell her that, because she said, I've always been told it's a challenge. Yes, she's been told it's a challenge, but every time she's overreacted when girls have just kissed Jeremiah, let alone, I can only imagine how she would have felt if somebody had twerked on Jeremiah. She would have kicked off. So for Nick to tell her that you went overboard, she wasn't expecting it. And then she said, well, I was told it's a challenge, it's nothing personal. It was a bit too much. For everyone to say it was a bit too much. We didn't get to see everything. It was a bit too much. You have Pepe having a conversation. He's having a conversation with TJ and he's sort of telling him that he had a chat with Andrina. She wanted to explore a connection and he felt it was important to be honest with her because he didn't want to lead her on. And then, she develops feelings and then it turns out he's not that into her because he wants to explore his connection with Grayson. I think the thing is, some people are very mindful of how they come across. So even if he liked her, I think he's going to be mindful of how he comes across if he's jumping from girl to girl to girl. And it seems Pepe has a type. Blonde hair, blue eyes. That seems to be his type because Grayson and Hana look the same. You have Andrina complaining to the girls that this is the first time she's been friend zoned. And it's like, well, it happens. Not everybody you like will like you. And then for Amaya was just supporting her girl. For her to say he's weird, he's not weird. He just didn't like her. He just doesn't feel her like that. You have Zach with a K moaning to Chris about Amaya. I think Amaya is easily misunderstood because she's very emotional and she's very sentimental, and some of the comments she makes might seem inappropriate, or her reactions might seem inappropriate, and I think this is why people feel some type of way about her. TJ and Iris, I didn't realize they were that serious because they took each other up to to Soul Ties. That's where they spent the night, and the duvet was over them. So hey, and Sierra and Nick. Poor Taylor was shooketh to the core because you actually saw him there with his mouth open. So in the morning, you have the guys make breakfast. Sierra, Nick, Iris, and TJ arrange to have, well, a couple sort of event where they make breakfast and then they go and sit down and have a chat. And everybody else gets breakfast. Even Zach brought breakfast for Amaya, which I think was surprising given the fact that the previous day they hadn't spoken. So for Sierra, Iris, Nick, and TJ to say they are in the best of places, yes, both couples have been physically intimate. That doesn't mean they're in the best of places. And maybe on Love Island, this is something you don't want to say, because as soon as you say that, production say, hold my beer, and they bring your type, and then things fall apart. So I can't wait to see what happens. I don't know whether they're really that serious, and I don't know whether they're the perfect couples, or maybe they've decided to settle with the people that they think are best for them. Amaya pulls Zach for a chat, and Amaya was upset the day before because Zach stayed away from her, and he is saying, I can't be the only one pulling you, you need to pull me. But every single time we've seen them sit down for the conversation, it's always been initiated by Amaya, so I don't get it. I think there's a sort of a lost in translation situation, in the sense that he is from the UK. He knows that saying darling sweetheart is like saying good morning. It's not something strange. It's not something that you say because you're emotionally invested. Someone in a supermarket could easily say to you, good morning darling. That doesn't mean anything. So I don't think that's the issue. Personally, I feel like the boys must have said something to him that put him off Amaya, or the boys must have said something that's making him question, because he says, he doesn't want to speed up his connection. He wants to make sure he's taking time. And so poor Amaya became tearful. It's really sad that none of the guys have sort of understood her. I wish Brian, instead of going after Jaden, would go after Amaya, because at least they come from the same background and they'll be able to understand each other better. You have Chris having a conversation with Brian while Huda is having a conversation with the girls. And he's talking about the fact that he's sort of taken a step back from Shirley and is now more focused on Huda, and is trying to see how far that can grow. What do I think? It's a bit of a problem. I feel like had Shirley not been strategic, she should have stayed with Chris, because he makes a better partner than Ace. Ace is there for the game and Ace is there to win. And Huda, I think, is after someone to help her reinvent herself from the negative narrative, the Hurricane Huda comments or the label she got after the situation with Jeremiah. So I think she's trying to revamp herself, as she said. She wants people to see another side of her, so I don't know. Huda then reveals to, Olandria and Andrina that she shared a kiss in Speak Easy. We all know she was going to share a kiss. She wanted to secure that relationship, that connection, because she was complaining that she felt like he favored Shirley more than her, because he gave her 2 pancakes and he gave her a flower. So I think the kiss and everything was to secure the connection. Brian said he really enjoyed his chat with Jaden and is going to pull her for another chat. And the sad part is Andrina is the one who initiated the let's explore other connections. And sadly, they're going to explore other connections and she's going to be left with none. Because after Jeremiah, her only other connection was Nick, and Nick has closed it down, which means that she will have no one if Brian suddenly decides to jump ship. Austin obviously is in his feelings because Jaden has sort of explored this connection. I don't think it's something he saw coming. But at the same time, Austin, his type was never in the villa. They tried to make him the Bergie of the season, but sadly, I don't think it's working. Jaden is busy telling the girls, Clark and Grayson, that, she's had a very good chat with Brian, and she thinks they might have more chats. The girls are sort of questioning whether their current couples are stopping people from trying to explore with them. The girls do note that Taylor is more physically intimate with Clark, and so for Clark, she's happy because she says, I know we've got a strong bond, we've got a strong connection, and it's a matter of does Olandria know that? Somebody needs to enlighten her. Because when Taylor goes to speak easy with Ace and Nick, he tells them that, they're growing day by day. He really enjoys where the connection is going. And it's like, well, you need to let Olandria know. Because if you don't let her know, she is still going to struggle. Because Olandria is speaking to Sierra. She's saying to Sierra, she's asked by Sierra, are you still going to continue to try and explore the connection with Zach? And she says yes. The only problem is the strongest connection she had in the villa was with Taylor. And it's like, God, even Stevie Wonder can see that that connection is gone. I don't know what else she needs outside of that man standing on a light pole and shouting out that we're over, because it seems he's tried everything with the nonverbals and she's not picking up what he's putting down. So maybe he might just need to shout it across the villa that we're over, and then she will get the message. You have Grayson go up to the terrace with Iris, and she's talking about her connection with Pepe. She thinks it's going great. And on the flip side, you have Pepe having a conversation with Taylor and TJ, and he's saying that, he's conflicted because he feels like he's missing a spark. I thought he was going to say he's going home, because you were saying it's totally different to his connection with Hana. So I expected him to turn around and say, I'm going home because I can't find anything with anyone here and I don't want to continue to force it. So it's like, if he doesn't feel anything for Andrina, if he doesn't feel anything for Jaden, what is he still doing in the villa? He needs to take his bum home and connect with Hana if Hana hasn't connected with Charlie, and see if they can grow that. Otherwise, he needs to stop wasting our time. Anyway, the islanders are just hanging around the villa, and so you have Austin receive a message. It says, Islanders, it's time to share your honest opinions about one another and get everything off your chest in tonight's villa game. Stand on business. And it's like, oh God, they haven't had any drama, so they're looking for drama. Iris then receives a second text message which reads, you will each receive blank postcards to send to your fellow islanders, telling them how you really feel. It's up to you if you want to sign your card or not. Clear the air and leave nothing unsaid. And then the audacity of Ace for him to stand there and say that, I'm not afraid of anyone, so I'm going to sign my cards. Ace has a lot of bravado. He has a lot of bravado. I think he grew up with a lot of insecurities. And because of that, he tries to overcompensate, because there was no need for him to sort of say, I stand on business, I'm not afraid of anyone. Nobody said he's afraid of anybody. But the idea that he feels the need to remind us all that he doesn't fear anyone, it makes you question, are you saying that for the islanders or for the viewers? Are you saying that to someone in particular? I didn't like that. So everyone receives postcards and you have them writing down, whatever they want to say. You have Sierra, Olandria and Shirley go up to Salt Highs to write their cards. The girls sort of encourage Olandria to write about, Taylor. Shirley is encouraged to write about her situation with Huda. And it's like, this is going to be messy. You have the likes of Huda knowing that she's going to receive a lot of cards, because Huda has rubbed people the wrong way, several people in the villa. So the idea that she's got this story arc where she's trying to be more sort of even killed, where she's more sort of reserved in what she says and what she does, I personally am not buying it, but hey. You have Clark. Clark is worried, obviously, that what are people going to say about her, because she's now in this couple with Taylor and she knows for a fact that people were not happy that he left Olandria. So that's going to be tricky, and hopefully Olandria doesn't write anything about Clark, because Clark has nothing to do with the breakup of her relationship. Whatever questions she has, she needs to direct them towards this young man. So the islanders would come and stand at the podium, read out a card, and then give a response to the card that they read. There's way too many questions that were asked. Some of them I might just summarize, but some of them are going into detail. With Austin, it was, I don't know how you've managed to sort of more or less last this long, because he hasn't been open to exploring connections. That's the truth, though. That's the truth. Because with that question was from Andrina. With his connection with Shirley, all he did was moan about the fact that she wasn't sharing as much time with him as she was sharing with Ace. And that's all we heard him do. With Amaya, he sort of hitched his wagon to Ace and Ace's beef and rode that for what it was worth. Because when he initially started exploring the connection with Amaya and they shared a kiss on the dock, he seemed to be all in. And once Ace coupled up with her and painted her to be the villain, he then jumped onto that bandwagon and never let go. Yes, Amaya was good at enough to save him in the villa until he found his person, but still, he was the villain in that story. And that question needed to be asked: that why are you still here? You should have gone home. You don't have a romantic connection. Jaden is already moving on. She's exploring a connection with Brian. So it's time for him to go home. With Nick and Sierra, they were asked, do you know that you're not quiet? Because during their intimacy, it seems like they're very loud. So it's good that people told them. It's sad that they don't have a hideaway where they can go. In Nick and Sierra's case, I think they'll be going every single day. So, hey, maybe it's a good thing. With Sierra was then asked, between her, Olandria and Shirley, I don't understand why you girls choose to send Hana home. Well, that was Pepe. He was concerned that why did they choose to send Hana home. The excuse that was given didn't make sense. The fact that they're saying that Hana had 2 very good connections, and yet Iris was still exploring her connection with TJ, and Amaya hadn't had an opportunity. The girls should have said it to their full chest. They sent Hana home because Huda told them that she was exploring a connection with Pepe. And Huda insisted that she wanted to be free to explore that connection. That's why they sent Hana home. That would have made more sense than the excuse that they gave, because the excuse they gave didn't make sense. Yes, she found 2 strong connections, but she was already in a couple with Pepe and things seemed to be going great. For Pepe, that's quite an eye-opener. It shows that he's still not over Hana. That's the impression that I get, because why else would he keep on sort of bringing that up? Anyway, you had Amaya. She was asked, Amaya swears she doesn't snow, but she keeps me awake. And that was a cute one. That was Chris. He was sort of teasing her because he had actually said it to her that you snore. And it seemed she didn't know that she snored until he sort of brought it to her attention. She laughed at that one. The next one is where the villain came out in the boys. Because the next question was, you try to move fast, and then you had Ace sort of chime in. Ace opened the floodgate, and then everybody else stepped in. And Ace was very aggressive with how he spoke about it. I couple up with you today, tomorrow you're already calling me babe, you're already doing this, you're already doing this. And then with Austin piled on, then you had Zach start to pile on as well. And I'm happy that Amaya stood up for herself and said, Zach, I called you for a chat. Why didn't you bring it up? You waited until we were sat in front of everyone and you wanted to pile on. That is unacceptable. Kudos to Brian for saying, in our culture, calling someone sweetheart, calling someone whatever is nothing new. This is something that we do all the time. And for Zach to want to settle his wagon onto that doesn't make sense, especially if he's grown up in the UK. Because in the UK, people call each other sweetheart, darling. There's no romantic connection at all. You could walk into a supermarket, ask someone for something, and they'll say, oh, come here, sweetheart, I'll show you. So the idea that he would say that was unacceptable. That's when I think the moment people's faces turned after the comments Ace made, Ace realized, oh, I messed up. And when Amaya stormed off crying, he started to run after her. And it's like, why are you running after her? Kudos to Sierra for stopping him. Because why are you running after her? You said you didn't like this girl because she moved too fast. You spent nights upon nights upon nights in soul ties. So what has changed now that you want to be the hero, the savior? I think he realized he had screwed up. This is why he ran after Amaya, trying to be the good guy, trying to apologize and make amends and save his storyline. And I'm happy that he wasn't given that opportunity. Pepe was then asked, ever since Hana left, you've been playing it safe. We know you didn't like Grayson as much as Hana. And that's the truth. He did tell the guys, though. And I have a feeling one of the boys that he told is the one that brought it up. My money is on TJ. That TJ is the one who brought it up. It's a pity that Pepe didn't have the cojones to tell, Grayson that, Grayson, I'm sorry, but there's no romantic spark. And Grayson asked him that, everyone keeps asking about this. Is there something I need to know? Am I missing something? Can you be honest with me? If you don't feel anything, let me know so that I can explore with other people. And then Austin brought up the question that needed to be brought up, because he spoke about the fact that, there isn't an ace posse whereby people do and say everything he wants them to do. And so for him to stand up there and say, I say things with my full chest, I know I'm 5'1" and Jeremiah was 6'5". He didn't have the balls to say whatever he wants. I do. I stand on business. No, Ace has a lot of insecurity. I think whether people bigger than him have bullied bullied him or whatever's happened to him before, which has traumatized him to an extent that he feels the need to justify himself. And I think seeing Jeremiah intimidated him because Jeremiah was taller than him. Jeremiah was more handsome than him. And I think this is why, yes, I also didn't like the fact that when he was called out about Jeremiah, instead of addressing why he had beef with Jeremiah, he then decided to throw Austin under the bus. And it's like, what has throwing Austin under the bus got to do with the questions that you've been asked? So as much as Austin needed to answer for whatever he said about Amaya, I didn't like the fact that Ace threw him under the bus and didn't bother to answer the questions that he was being asked. And I love the fact that at one point he said, can someone answer for me? And everybody looked at him and didn't say anything. And I love that. And you could see with Taylor and Nick, when it was said, the Ace posse, they realized that they're being used. And I think this is why Taylor decided to have his standout moment. You have Shirley. Okay, with Shirley, she was asked, why do you want to set boundaries for the challenge, but you insist that we're sort of still open? And it's like, Ace, what do you mean set boundaries? You were disrespectful. Huda was disrespectful. You can't say boundaries. Because at the end of the day, Ace, I said it during the challenge that Ace went for the girls that he's wanted to kiss all along, but he couldn't kiss because he was trying to play this, dedicated, committed guy. And so for him to want boundaries, what boundaries is he talking about? Shirley hasn't kissed, and she kissed in a challenge, but she hasn't had someone sit on her face and twerk. And let alone sort of be making out with people that she's previously expressed interest on or shown interest in. I didn't like that. And then the other one was Chris and Shirley, why haven't you had a conversation since Akasa? It seems like you're avoiding. And Shirley was right to say, I have a good thing going with Ace. Well, she had a good thing going with Ace. And the thing is, Chris is not applying as much effort as Ace is. So I can't force anything. And I think Shirley should have owned up her truth. She should have said, I really liked Chris, but the problem is, Huda told me she liked him as well, and I didn't want to appear as though I was dragging a guy with somebody else. This is why I took a step back and I allowed him to explore his connection with Huda. That would have made sense. Huda's card read, do you remember saying it's just a challenge when you're both still open? And it's like, but Shirley hasn't yelled and screamed and shouted at anyone. We all remember the names she was calling Amaya the moment Amaya came in for the challenge and kissed Jeremiah. We all remember how she nearly fell backwards, calling names on Iris, even though she didn't know her when Iris was kissing Jeremiah. We all know what she said about Sierra when Sierra was expressing interest in Jeremiah. So the audacity to say, why are you, exploring connections when you're still open? I don't know. I don't get it. Then came Huda. Her first card was from Nick, which said, I don't understand why you're still here when Hana was sent home and she has had, 2 strong connections which have ended up being broken up. And Huda was like, well, I deserve a chance. No, Huda, you came in, you had a strong connection from day one that lasted until you kicked off and that person decided they'd had enough. So it lasted a good 2-3 weeks. So you should have allowed other people to explore connections. I get why Nick was upset that I keep voting for this person and they don't go home. So I get it. I understand it. Next up was, do you think you follow the girl code? When it comes to Chris and Shirley's relationship, are you a girl's girl? I don't think she's a girl's girl. I really don't. Because she was coupled up with JD and she only broke things off with JD because JD called her out on her crap. And so this is why she did what she did. And she decided that since she couldn't get JD, instead of going for all the other single guys, she decided to go for Chris. And so she's not a girl's girl. Because if she was a girl's girl, she didn't need to say to Shirley, I like Chris, so I'm bringing Chris back. She spoke to production, in my opinion, and then they agreed that she needed to bring back Chris. They offered her to choose somebody else since JD was not going to be it, and she decided to pick Chris. So she's not a girl's girl. She is not. And then Shirley's card read, if you're going to preach about being a girl's girl, then practice what you preach. You want loyalty from your friends, but you don't want to give it. That's because Huda, every time the girls didn't sort of pick Jeremiah during a challenge, she would really appreciate them. But before the challenge, she would just say, oh, it's a challenge. And then if they don't pick him, oh, I really love you girls. I really fancy you. I remember her disclosing that she had a child to Sierra because Sierra hadn't picked Jeremiah during the kissing challenge when Amaya and Hana came in. So yeah, I get it. And then with Chris, are your intentions with Huda genuine? That was Sierra. Do you just want to stay in the villa? This triggered Chris because he said, I could be overseas playing, ball, but I'm here. And that's because I find that I've got a connection with Huda. And that's why I'm staying. I feel like production offered him the opportunity to stay in the villa and enjoy himself until, until the end, because they're trying to get her to the end, and sadly no one else can sort of manage her. That's the impression that I get. And then Shirley's cut was, the switch up is insane. The fact that one moment he was saying he really likes Shirley, and then the next moment he was with her. That doesn't make sense to me as well. That doesn't make sense unless it's producer driven. That's it. And then for Olandria, she received a card from Clark. It says, I know you think I'm just a test, but I am actually serious about Taylor. So the idea that you'd call me a test, I didn't like it. And for Olandria to say, oh, I was calling everyone a test, it was nothing personal. Yeah, it was nothing personal, but it affected someone. It hurt somebody else's feelings. So maybe be mindful of the things that you say, just in case you might end up upsetting somebody else. And then lastly was Taylor. You had a strong connection. How did it change so quickly? And so Taylor on his part said that, he felt this spark. He felt like a little kid again as soon as he met Clark. And this is why he was willing to give up his connection with Olandria. All of us know that he said he didn't feel her romantically. There was no romantic spark. So the idea that anyone is shocked, I don't get it. I love how he stood on business, because it was at that moment that you realize that, Ace wishes the switch up was him. He wishes he had had the guts to do exactly what Taylor did, because now Taylor, there is a possibility he could win it all with Clark. And I hope they win it. I really do. I really hope they win it. I'm happy as well that he was able to release Olandria and tell her that I choose Clark because Clark is it for me. So do with that information as you please. Anyway, it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 25. Bye guys.